So there's this amazing thing that will happen to you if you stand in front of this surface in the Sudama Caves in the Barabar Hills of India. And what's that? You're going to see your own reflection. And here's the special thing. This is a surface that's not made of reflective metal. It's not made of glass. It's actually made of granite. And the super amazing thing is this surface is really hard. Way harder than the iron tools that were used to polish it at the time it was made. And this was during the Mauryan Empire at the time of the reign of Emperor Ashoka. So today I want to get into the mystery of what scientists call the Mauryan Polish. And I want to look at three things. First, how were these huge stones that were as big as a Boeing 747 transported across vast stretches of land to the far-flung corners of the Mauryan Empire, which encompassed most of India? The second thing I want to get at is how in these olden days, when there was no diamond cutting, when there was no modern electricity and power tools, and like I said, the iron was substantially softer than the granite, then how did they accomplish this polish? And the third thing I want to examine is why did the Mauryan polish just fade away after just 1 century? Let's start with everyone's favorite subject, geology. So the Mauryans like to use this Chunar sandstone, and as the name is a dead giveaway, this sandstone is found in Chunar in the Mirzapur district of India. Now, normally sandstone, it's quite lame. You know, you put pressure on it and it crumbles and stuff. But the Chunar sandstone is special. It has a high concentration of quartz that's bounded together by silica. And so it can resist high pressure and maintain its sharp edge. So this gets us to the next question. So in a time without trucks and stuff, how did the Mauryans get the stone from the Chunar district to places like Afghanistan and Meerut, which were thousands of kilometers away? So here's the thing they did. They didn't use land, they used water. So these clever people waited for the monsoons, and the waters of the rivers like the Ganges became swollen with water. Then they put the stone on barges in the water and it went to the far-flung reaches of the empire. But even after getting these stones to these locations, how did they accomplish this polish? This brings us to the second question. So to understand how they accomplished this, we have to understand specular reflection. So let's take what normally happens when you go to a cave. There's a surface and stuff, light falls on it, and there are irregularities in the surface. And the light gets diffused in 1,000 different directions. So the surface appears dull. Now, what the Mauryans did was they went to work on this surface with hard stones like agate and hematite, and they kept working away at these stones till the quartz crystals fused together. So what happened then was that the irregularities became smaller than the wavelength of visible light. And so when the light fell on the surface, it reflected smoothly, creating the impression of a mirror or the clear surface on a lake on a beautiful summer day. So this is what the Mauryans did. They applied a technique called specular reflection. And how good were the Mauryans at applying specular reflection? They were very, very good. The polish in the Karna Chaupar cave, for example, the polish is so smooth that even sound just bounces off the surface with nearly zero absorption. So this creates amazing acoustics, which just suited the needs for the chanting of the Ajivika monks. So we have this amazing technique called the Mauryan polish. Why did it disappear from the archaeological records after only 100 years? There are two reasons for this. The first reason has to do with money. This is because the Mauryan Empire after Ashoka went through a series of disruptions and the economy went to really bad. How do we know this? Take this silver coin that was found, and it goes back to the dying days of the Mauryan Empire. You'll see that the silver is debased silver. This shows that the economy wasn't as rocking as it was in the heydays of Ashoka. So money was one factor. The second factor is just the way artists chose to tell their stories. So around this time, the Buddhists made a sharp turn to telling narratives. You see this in the Ajanta caves today. When you go there and you see this amazing Buddhist art, you feel like you're in this magnificent comic book or in this very surreal vision where the Buddha and other monks have just come to life. But using a narrative technique calls for a matte finish, as you have today, because matte creates shadows, and then with shadows you can highlight certain elements and tell a story. So you really can't use a smooth polished surface that causes no shadows, because if there aren't any shadows, there are no stories. So this is the reason that this amazing polishing technique disappeared from the archaeological records after only 100 years. I hope you're enjoying this video. If you like videos that go deep into specific objects, people, and events from Indian history, mythology, and also Buddhist philosophy, please consider subscribing for this channel so that you can continue to get future content like this. Now let me end by telling you an amazing story. So this is the Didarganj Yaksha statue. So this statue, like a rock group, took a world tour. But when it came back, it had a blemish. And they tried to fix it by applying a matte polish. But what happened was that the technique they applied stood out in sharp contrast to the smooth surface, almost like a scar on a face. This is because the surface was dealing with specular reflection. It reflected all of the light. And the fix they applied had diffuse reflection. So you could see it and it stuck out as clearly as a scar on a person's face. And this allowed people in the world to understand in a very real way the genius of these Mauryans. They didn't apply the polish to the stone. The polish was a part of the stone itself. It was part of the inner nature of that stone. So I hope you enjoyed this video about the Mauryan Empire. If you want to see more videos on Indian history, you can take a look at this video here that shows 5 pictures that really bring to life how British colonialism destroyed India. Thank you for considering subscribing for this channel. I look forward to seeing you again. Have a wonderful week and enjoy the next 7 days that lie ahead. Bye.